Okay, good. So we're going to start with a one sentence affirmation. And we're going to do this together because this is, I mean, we could just like say this 28 times and then I could leave because this is pretty much what we're talking about. So let's say this together. I live on purpose and in service to life. Let's do it one more time. I live on purpose and in service to life. So thanks again for having me here. I love this area and I just love the energy in this congregation. So I'm particularly motivated to share about this topic because of my personal life path. And lucky for me, as a very small child, I knew that music was going to be the direction I wanted to go. And it's 51 years later, I'm still doing it. Or actually 70 years later, I'm still doing it. But I got serious about it when I was in my late teens. So I know that our faith grows exponentially as we focus on our spiritual principles and practices. Anybody slip up on their practices sometimes besides me? Okay, good. I'm not the only one. So the more we lean into expressing whatever our individual divine purpose is, and the more we experience the power of how that feels when we're actually in the flow of it happening, the stronger it all becomes, the energy around it becomes. So it's up to us to master these tools that are part of this faith tradition. And it takes vision and courage and a lot of trust, especially in the music business, that divine process is at work all the time. I'm sure I'm probably not the only person that's spinning with what appears to be going on, not only in our country, but globally. These are really, really challenging times for hypersensitive people and for people who have been working towards something other than what we're seeing out picturing right now. This is just really hard. So it's like I'm finding myself leaning into the deepest part of these principles just to be able to maintain the dogged determination that I've had for decades to co-create something better than what appears to be happening right now. So the Buddha, I love to draw from all of the different spiritual paths because the parallels are pretty much unanimous through all of them. The Buddha reminds us that your purpose in life is to find your purpose and give your whole heart and soul to it. And I have to say, there's been some moments when I've slipped up, but pretty much my purpose has been to find a way to deliver a message of unity and love and compassion through music. And we'll talk a little bit about my career trajectory and how I kept kind of coming back to that, even though I would stray off course. So probably the most important thing that we need to realize is that we all have our own unique gifts, our own path, our own purpose. And each one of us has the potential to start a ripple that spreads outwards and touches people that we will never know. Smiling at a stranger that makes that person feel a little warmer toward the world might have that person smile at someone else, or let somebody go in line in front of them, or buy somebody's coffee in the drive-through line. We just never know. But we can know that there's power in showing up to our highest and best as much as is possible. And I don't know that there's anybody who gets it right all the time. I sure don't. In fact, I had an incident in the freeway here and I had to go, wow, who am I becoming? In that moment, it's like, whoa, I don't want to emulate that energy. So sometimes the challenge is finding our unique place. Like, where do we fit in this puzzle? I mean, I've so often been a round peg trying to cram myself into a square hole. Anybody ever do that? Yeah, it's weird. It's a waste of energy. So I smiled when I read that because we get these little outlines to work off of. And, it just tells about, it's about the call part of the outline about how we get our calling. And they used words like call and nudge and intuitive sense and spirit calling. And I'm thinking, okay, that's lovely. And a lot of people get it that way through meditation. How about the universal 2x4? Anybody get it that way? Because some of us ignore these lovely things. And if there's, sorry, my side of my head has been smacked more than once by that universal 2x4. Because if we don't pay attention, we're going to get to wherever we're going to go eventually. So I figure it's probably better to, the cosmic shove, I call it. So maybe we can ask for a gentle cosmic shove before the universe gets out that thing and really gives us the old what for. So spirit can be quite convincing and even downright obstinate and continue to push us till we get on the path, because we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And part of what that experience is to emulate the highest and best that spirit represents. So Michael Bernard Beckwith says, and this one, boy, one of my friends told me, pain pushes until vision pulls. Anybody besides me had to be so freaking miserable in a relationship, a work situation, personal friend, that it just had to be so god awful that you finally were willing to go, there's got to be something better than this. Yeah. So yes, he has nodding. Good. I hate to be the only one. So have you ever noticed in your own life or watched somebody that you love in that state where they just keep going back and you keep going, why? We can't learn this for anyone else. I mean, I want to, but then I figure I have enough to learn on my own. Hello. So Bishop T.D. Jakes, I have no idea who this person is, but I want to look this person up because they're very wise. He says, if you can't figure out your purpose, figure out your passion. For your passion will lead you right into your purpose. And that's how my trajectory has worked. It's so true for me. Because as a little person, my favorite toy, and my parents have a picture of me playing it when I was about 2. It was a little keyboard and it had color-coded keys and then it had little bells by the same colors. Mm-hmm. And I would, this picture, I'm just in my bliss, my mouth is wide open, I'm sure I'm howling, and I'm playing this instrument. This is as far back as there's pictures of me. So I always had this knowing that music was going to be my path. And even growing up with an older sister who would consistently say, shut up, you're ruining the song. Welcome to the music business. But I never lost my commitment to my musical expression. I never stopped listening to this little voice in my head that said, no, sing, keep singing, always sing. So eventually I won my sister over, and I ended up kind of grateful for her very bad attitude about my singing, because she helped me develop a thick skin. And she helped me really lean into that. I call it determined. It's a Careyism. It's like determined, but only bigger. That conviction that this was truly the path I needed to be on. And then when I went into the music business professionally and just saw how cutthroat and dog eat dog it can be, it gave me the strength to really know that this is what I'm here to do. So I'm grateful. She's my late sister now, and I still kind of once in a while, when things get really hard for me, and I lean into that strength that I developed really early on, that knowing. So thanks, sis. So anybody besides me take some really big detours while they were trying to figure out what they might want to do, like off-cliff detours. So my whole thing started in the Methodist Church in the children's choir when I was quite small, and I was always known as a little kid with the big voice. And fortunately for me, there were 2 incredibly gifted musicians that came on as assistant and senior minister to the Methodist Church I grew up in when I was about 9. And one of them walked away from a full Juilliard scholarship as a pianist to go into the ministry. I'm still in touch with him. He's 83 now. And it's been so wonderful. I lost him for about 30 years and I found him about 20 years ago. So there's this huge gap, and I was able to thank him for recognizing that I was gifted, because my family did not recognize that I had a little something special, but he did. And I got the part when I was 12 of Mary Magdalene in Jesus Christ Superstar. And if you don't know, that's the only girl part in Jesus Christ Superstar. So of course I lost all my girlfriends who wanted that part. So welcome again to the music business. But people got over it, and we did Godspell, and I got a very small part in that because they balanced it out. But so I started pretty much there. And then I became a front singer in a top 40 band doing covers. And there was a lot of substance abuse in that band. And very shortly after my being hired for the front singer, I ended up being the keyboard player because the keyboard player stomped off a gig and didn't show back up, didn't take his gear. So I managed to kind of stumble through the song. So started out in dive bars, okay, the worst bars in LA. I still have memories of how they smelled. That was back when you smoked inside. So then I graduated to some lovely piano bars. I had, in the 80s, I had 3 charting 12-inch dance singles in the high energy dance field. In the late 1980s, I released my first album of original music. And I started touring Europe in the early 90s as a piano bar person. And I morphed from doing covers with some of my original music to playing 90% of my original music. I got a sub-publishing deal with a German record label publisher, and things really started to grow exponentially for me. But along our spiritual path, it's important to keep our desire to strive for higher ground, not become too discouraged by the valleys, because there's peaks and valleys. We've all been through peaks and valleys. Things are going real good, and then stuff, just the bottom falls out, and we have to reinvent ourselves. I have reinvented myself so many times, from a disco queen, high energy dance. We did a remake of We Got to Get Out of This Place by Eric Burden and the Animals. And it hit the charts at number 6, ahead of Madonna, ahead of Kylie Minogue, ahead of everybody. And apparently, we never did figure out why, but we had Music Plus and Tower Records calling us at home going, we can't get this record. We're calling the record company. So we go to the record company, there's pallets of them, stacks of this record, but nobody can get them. And I finally figured out maybe 10 years ago that they probably didn't get permission from Cynthia Mann and Barry Mann and Cynthia Wow, the people who wrote that song. And they probably got some big pushback for royalties for the club plays, and they didn't want to pay back end for the mechanicals. So, because it made no sense. They had them. So anyway, my trajectory was, I thought I was going to be the big queen of the high energy dance music, not really recognizing that it's heavily gay, which is fine, but it's also, at that time, was heavily drug oriented, illegal drug oriented. And I was devastated that my single didn't do anything. But there was a higher calling for me. So, and I'm moving toward that. There's always going to be challenges. Even when we think we're on the right path, there's going to be stuff that comes up that goes, okay, this was a means to the next step for you. In my case, it gave me the confidence that I had some of what I needed to actually be an artist. Even though I didn't get the recognition or the money that I could have earned off of that, there was something in my mind and heart that said, okay, there's some industry validation. There is something from the cosmos telling you that you're on the right path, but maybe you need to shift. Maybe you need to get down in that valley and regroup. So I did. And Martin Luther King was one of my heroes. He so brilliantly in his famous speech said, keep moving from this mountain. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. Those are such magical, magical words, such a deep directive. So as truth seekers, and everyone in here is a truth seeker on some level, we want something higher and better, and probably not just for ourselves, but for the people that we love, for our friends, our neighbors. And I know for me, and probably most of us, we want this globally. We want this for the world. So it's important to keep moving. Anybody feel like they're just going lateral and they're not really making any progress? That's the hardest place for me because I just want to scratch and crawl for progress. But I have to remind myself that I'm still moving. If I can stay in neutral, if I'm learning something, if I've gained a new tool by kind of being stuck to help me get out of it, if I've gained a new resource or learned anything of value, then it was a win on some level overall. So I'm like the queen of being determined on the wrong stuff sometimes. I stayed in a couple really horrible marriages for way too long. And I kept trying to crowbar open that door, but the cosmos showed me maybe high energy dance music isn't really your thing. And I remember when I was on the piano bar circuit, I worked a lot in Europe, and there was a lot of Americans and people from a lot of different countries. I worked a lot in Switzerland, which is a very international population. And about 10 or 12 of us would get together for lunch if we were close by or within a train ride from whatever, like Germany's like a half hour away from Zurich. I didn't know that. I shared that last night. I'm like, really? You can be in another country in 20 minutes? I was born and raised in California. You can't be anywhere but in California for hours, no matter what border you're heading for. So yes, it was amazing to me. So we would meet, and the conversations around the table were all about the newest cover tune that people are going to learn and some new way to get backing tracks. I made my own backing tracks. I had wonderful band people. That's my band. That really is my band that I play with here. It's not sequence. Those are living, breathing people that we make magic together. And I remember thinking, something's different about my motivation to be doing music than the rest of these people. They were like trying to get to the next best paying gig and trying to have the biggest repertoire of cover tunes. And I'm thinking, no, I got my own message about us loving each other and about us being connected. That's the message I wanted. That's the message I want to share. And I just was going over my list of the old cover tunes that I used to do. And so much of it was the deeper stuff. Like Eric Clapton, when his son died, he wrote No More Tears in Heaven. Those were the tunes that I was covering. And then I started writing more and more of my own stuff. And so part of it's looking for the synchronicities in life and not ignoring them. Because when we're on the right path, we're going to get those nudges. When we're in meditation and we're really paying attention to what's being channeled through to us, that's when we get the hits on what the next step, where our growth needs to go. So it's never a bad idea to revisit where we are in our purpose and on our path, and maybe tweak it just a little bit to make it a little stronger. So are y'all up for asking 4 questions that come from the Course in Miracles? And those questions are, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? You guys up for that? So I'm going to just play. We're going to do real short, but this is a really powerful practice that I do when I'm feeling stuck. So I'm going to sing those words, and you can sing along with me. It's a very simple melody. And then I'm just going to play instrumentally. And I want you to just sit and breathe and see if anything comes through. You can ask, you can go into inquiry, you can say, is this really a good idea that I'm doing? Or you can just sit and wait and see what comes through. So here we go. All this stuff. And this, I don't know how many of you know the Course in Miracles, but it's a wonderful, wonderful teaching, very intense teaching. So it goes like this. Close your eyes, put your feet on the ground, take a deep breath. Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say? Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say and do? Let's sing that together. Just ask. Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say and do? So now I want to give you a little different directive. We're going to sing Where Would You Have Us Go? And I want you to see if you get a hit on what we might be able to do as a community here or just as a global community. Where would you have us go? Where would you have us go? What would you have us do? What would you have us say and do? Now let's visualize it again. Where would you have me go? Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say and do? So just sit with those questions. Take a deep breath together. Just take a deep breath together. Wow. It's very interesting how the energy in the room shifted. Did anybody feel that? A lot of stuff coming through. I hope some people got some clarity. So, just in closing, I think if we're really committed to co-creating a world that works for everybody, no exceptions, there just cannot be exceptions. Because there's really only one of us here. If we are going to stand in judgment of other people, we're judging ourselves. It just doesn't go any further than that. It's like turn the mirror around because we're right there in it. That's one of the hardest things sometimes for me to realize, especially when I see somebody acting out really badly. And I just want to shake them. I just want to go, really? But I'm that person sometimes. I'm the dumbhead that's acting out sometimes. So one of the most powerful practice that we can master is to stay in neutral, just to not be reactive. And that's a hard place to get to. There's a lot to react to right now. So perhaps forgiving ourselves and making a commitment to do better the next time. And in every moment, making a commitment to do better, to create better, to know better, to be better. So I want to remind us, and it was so great. I can't remember exactly what Catherine said when she did her opening, but it was something about it either was water, it was a ripple, something that ripples, that they spread outward. And we just need to remember that whatever energy we're bringing to things doesn't stop right here. So the more positive and loving and compassionate and positive energy that we can bring to every situation, the more powerful it's going to be. And we can know that that is spreading so far beyond our little minutia, because our energy is huge. So we can each be one drop of water in that ocean that ripples outward. So we're gonna repeat our affirmation one more time together. Ready? I live on purpose and in service to God. Thank you for having me.